Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Grid Buzz podcast, where we will be doing our sector times and star signs on the British GP at Silverstone. So, obviously, the Silverstone Circuit, a super iconic circuit. It is going to bring some very questionable weather. The weather report is all over the place. There's times of the day where they're saying there's sun. There's times of the day where they're saying there's heavy rain or intermittent rain. And so it's going to make this GP very interesting, along with the cooler track temperatures. We know that has kind of leveled the playing field in the past with cars. McLaren tends to do better in warmer temperatures where they just manage their tires a lot better. And in cooler temperatures, other teams seem to perform at a higher level who typically have degradation issues, especially Mercedes. We saw that at Canada with a double podium, not performing well in Austria because it was warmer, and now we're going back to a cooler circuit again. So it should be a pretty competitive weekend of racing, and throw some rain into that mix, the great equalizer. We should have some, just exciting battles on the track, and should see the positions on the grid potentially mix up a little bit.
Unpredictable,
which will be I think some themes of some of our picks. I don't know. We'll see. But before we dive into those picks, how did we do last week on our predictions? Cheyenne, you are now up to a whopping 4 points on the season.
Ooh,
+1.
I got a point.
You got 1 point last weekend, and I absolutely crushed my predictions last weekend.
Of course you did.
4 points. Just nailing across the board. I got Hulkenberg goes top 10 again. I got Colapinto placing in the bottom 15. I got Piastri P2. And then closing it out with my favorite pick, Ferrari, double top 4. Double top 4 Ferrari.
See what happens when you manifest?
I know, you're
That's all I
right.
had to
You did say to manifest.
Maybe I should just get a point.
All right, you get a point. You get a point for telling me to manifest Ferraris. They popped. It happened. Ferrari they popped off.
I was your support system.
All right,
there.
so you got +2. So now you're at 5 points on the season. I'm at 12 points on the season, and we will dive into our predictions for this week. A lot of momentum last week. I don't know if we're going with momentum again. I guess we'll see.
No.
Okay. Apparently, we are getting away from momentum. So with that, who is your surprise performance for Silverstone that is not a momentum pick?
Okay, this is going to be a little bit of a wild card, because I don't think I've ever talked about him before. Lance Stroll.
Okay. Yeah. I don't think many people talk about him in any sort of surprise performance.
And I feel bad.
You feel bad for the Nepo baby?
Yeah, well, yeah. No, I just found that out right now. It's not his fault he's a Nepo baby.
His daddy bought a Formula One team and gave him a seat.
All right, my prediction still stands. We can reevaluate that in the coming weeks. Yeah, we can't pivot. Okay, Lance Stroll. All right, he has not been doing well.
Nope, not at all.
Regardless of the fact that he's a Nepo baby. I think that he needs a little bit of motivation, and he needs someone in his corner besides his dad, paying for the team, buying him a car. All the things. This really doesn't sound good now. Yeah, no, I still think he needs a little motivation, and I'm gonna go that he places top 10 this race because
Top
it's
10.
Unpredictable.
So
I love Aston Martins. You know that.
Yeah, you do. You do love Aston Martins.
I'm just gonna put that.
So I actually don't hate this pick because Lance Stroll actually has a history of being a pretty good wet weather driver. And we've got some potentially very rainy conditions on the horizon. I don't know. There's a lot of mixed weather reporting. Our Doppler 7000 Plus isn't giving us the best.
It's too all over the place.
Yeah, it's too all over the place. But if we get some rain, Lance Stroll is, for whatever reason, actually put in some pretty good wet weather drives. So
makes me feel better about my pick. Honestly, I was just going through the list, and I'm like, who haven't I talked about? There's a few in there, obviously. And I'm like, well, I do like Aston Martin, and I just like their team. So
honestly, I struggled with the surprise performance pick this week because I feel like every team now at this point has shown potential. I don't know. I just feel like it's hard. even some of the picks that I wanted to make, I'm like, is that a surprise performance now? Like Kick Sauber, like Nico Hülkenberg, like I can't really say that's a surprise performance anymore. He's gotten top 10 3 times in a row. His rookie teammate Nico or Bortoleto also scored points last week. If I pick Williams, yes, they've been on like a bad streak of performance for 3 races in a row, but that car still has like a lot of potential. Like basically every driver who has performed poorly at some point in the season has now like performed well, and so it's like kind of hard to pick like a surprise performance because it just well, except Yuki and to be honest,
Yuki, there's still time.
Yeah,
there is still time. Maybe this is the weekend.
And no,
Hey.
you're right. Picking Yuki to do well would have been a surprise performance, but I don't think he's gonna do well, so I didn't pick him. So everybody I wanted to pick, like I was like, oh, is that really a surprise?
The
now?
odds are against him, and I don't like it.
Well, maybe I have something there during one of my future picks, but we aren't there yet. We're not there yet. And surprise performance of the week for me, Lewis Hamilton. So I think Lewis is going top 5 again, which I think is saying a lot. He got top 4 last week, but Max was out of the race. The Mercedes cars were nowhere because of the heat. Kimi took out Max Verstappen. So it was, rough weekend, and I think Lewis was able to capitalize on that. I don't think it's going to be that case this weekend. Like Max is obviously going to be back in the race. Mercedes should be very competitive at this GP. It would not be surprising if they were on the podium or maybe even brought home a victory here. So I think getting in the top 5 is actually going to be hard this week, regardless whether it's McLaren, Ferrari, Mercedes, whoever. And so I think Lewis getting in the top 5, home GP at Silverstone, has a really good track record at Silverstone. So I am, and also Lewis is a great wet weather driver. So if we get some rain, could play out in his favor. And so I'm going with Lewis Hamilton top 5 again, which moves over into our flops, which I think I alluded to a little bit. I am going with Yuki.
So messed up.
So I'm going with Yuki. This one's a bit hard.
But like he's already flopped. How much more you want him?
I know, that's why I'm picking him as my flop, but I don't know.
You just want a free point.
Well, I don't know where the line in the sand is to like rightfully call him a flop because his string of performance has been so bad.
So yeah, I feel like you can't put him in that category because you already know. You're going for an easy point right now. I see your strategy and I don't like it. You're going for an easy point.
What if I pick like Yuki like outside the top 15 when his like teammate is like going to be on podium?
But is it like that hard to believe? Like, is it that big of a flop if that happens?
Flop.
You're going for these easy points,
I'm not going for easy points.
And I think I've been doing the strategy. Well, obviously I have no strategy because mine is just star signs and I'm going by soft vibes. But yeah, you're just going for easy points. I don't like it.
I'm not going for easy points. You're right. The Yuki one might be a little easy. So on the fly, Kimi Antonelli does bad again.
Okay.
Kimi Antonelli finishes outside the top 9.
That's pretty bad.
Because I think Mercedes, McLaren, Bull, and Ferrari will all be competitive at this circuit with the exception of Yuki. So that's 7 cars right there. And then I am saying that there will be 2 midfield cars at least who places ahead of Kimi Antonelli, who should no way be competing with a top 4 team driver. So Kimi Antonelli finishes 9th or lower. I also think George Russell has a good shot at a podium this weekend. So him finishing 9th would be pretty bad. So yeah. Kimi Antonelli, my flop. I honestly don't want to pick this, but only because you're like forcing me. I don't know who else to pick.
Okay, I'm not forcing you.
Me. Because I honestly I don't know who else to pick. Like Liam Lawson did good last week.
Anyway, we've already talked about it.
All right. So my flop was Yuki, but I got blocked. So it is now Kimi Antonelli.
No more easy points around here.
It's not. I picked a Ferrari double podium last week, and that hit. Okay.
I know.
Or not double podium, double top 4.
But that was a crazy prediction.
Yeah.
That's allowed. Crazy predictions are allowed. But when you're going for these like easy ones, like okay. Come on.
Okay, I don't think my picks are that easy. I pick some pretty crazy ones sometimes, but okay. All right, whatever. Who's your flop?
We're just going to drive the tension even more. Charles.
Dude, What? Why do you've picked him like 4 times?
I picked him twice.
Okay, but you've almost picked him like 2 other times.
I didn't.
Or you didn't pick him, but you told me you thought he was gonna flop anyway.
But he didn't.
Exactly, but you were like, he's gonna flop.
I've never actually said that. I have never actually said that.
All right, why do you think Charles is gonna flop, and what does that mean?
So I don't think he's gonna make top 6. Okay, it kind of, so this is hard because it's the same thing as you. Like in my mind, I'm picking drivers that have performed well, who won't perform well. That's been my strategy based off vibes. He did really well last week.
Yeah.
He did really well. But this week, I just think with all the weather and the rain potentially being a part of the race, I see that just causing a whole slew of issues, and I think he might get caught up in some of those issues.
You think he's gonna crash, or you think he's just gonna
I mean, I'm not gonna say that. I just think he's gonna be slow. I just don't think he's gonna place as well as maybe some others. I think there's gonna be room for a lot more people to place above him that haven't historically done that, and I think he'll.
So outside the top 6, so 6 or lower, right? Okay. I hope not, but all right.
Coming after Yuki.
Yeah, so the opposite of but you didn't let me pick that. The opposite of a momentum pick because he has the momentum. All right, I see it. We're switching.
More momentum because this weekend's too unpredictable.
So who's on your unpredictable pole position?
Well, that's not unpredictable. Oscar.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, no, I put Max.
Max.
Sorry,
all right.
I put Max.
I like it. This one's actually all right. Before I get into mine, why Max?
He's gonna be like a comeback kid this week. He like obviously got taken out last week. I felt bad for him.
Coming out with a vengeance.
Yeah, because I mean, last week was bad. He missed out on his 5P or 6P of placing at that track.
At that track, yeah, it would have been. I mean, he's won like 5. He's won 5 times and.
Yeah, so I feel
been
like
on the podium a bunch of times.
I mean, he was pretty chill.
Yeah.
From what I saw, the little clips.
He actually did not. A lot of people were commenting on how he didn't like.
He wasn't very
rage quit on Kimi.
He wasn't
nice. Yeah.
It probably helped that Kimi said sorry.
All right, so he's got.
So I think he's gonna come back. Yeah, I think he's gonna come back and be like, okay, this is what should have happened last weekend.
Right.
So yeah.
I like it. This one was hard for me, actually. I think picking pole and picking top 3, there was a lot of different like orders and things that I wanted to do here. I do like the Max Verstappen on pole pick, especially if it rains. I think if it rains, Max has the potential to be very dangerous here. With that, though, I am going with Lando Norris on pole. Obviously, the McLaren is a really good car. In general, the McLaren has also been a really good car at Silverstone, specifically the last few years, even before they became the good car that kind of happened on the back half of 2023. They've always performed well here. It's also Lando's home circuit. I mean, it's Lewis Hamilton's home circuit. It's George Russell's home circuit.
That's a hometown boys.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of British drivers in F1 always. So it's also Lando's home circuit. That's going to be pretty meaningful for him to bring home the W here, the pole position, all of that. And then Lando is also a good wet weather driver. I think when I think of wet weather drivers, I think of Max Verstappen, I think of Lando Norris, I think of Lewis Hamilton, a little bit George Russell. Funnily, I actually do think of Lance Stroll a little bit as like this driver who's not normally good, but when it rains is like actually kind of good. But yeah, I think just a lot of things are aligning for Lando, and I think he's feeling confident on the back of last weekend, and we know that Lando gets in his head a lot, and when he feels confident, he performs well. And so going with the Lando Norris pole position at Silverstone. So moving over into our top 3, though, I will kick it off with my third step of the podium. So I'm also going with a homer pick again here. Once again, one of the wet weather drivers that I mentioned, which is George Russell. So I'm going with George Russell, P3. I am really putting a lot of chips on my British drivers this weekend. I have, Lewis Hamilton, I'm predicting in the top 5, George Russell on the third step, Lando Norris on pole, I'm really just going all in on British drivers at their home GP. But yeah, I think the one, Russell has a good track record here. Two, Russell is a pretty good wet weather driver if it rains. And three, Mercedes is a very dangerous car in cooler conditions. And even if it doesn't rain, it is going to be on the cooler side. So I think that car is going to be in a good operating window. And, I could see George honestly winning this race. This could be one of the two GPs out of the year where the Mercedes has the potential to win. Canada was one, maybe this will be the other, but I am, even though I could see it, I'm going with George on the third step. Who do you have on the third step?
You're a copycat because
I'm a
I also
copycat.
put George.
Okay. All right. So I have my sector times, my data reasons. What do the vibes say about George on the third step?
Yeah, I just always have to put a little bone out to the hometown boys.
Hometown boys do get some vibe points, that's for sure.
Everyone always does better at hometowns. So.
Anything else for George or just the hometown hero?
Hometown hero.
I like it. Who's your second step?
Lando,
another hometown boy. Hometown heroes. We're all in on British drivers this weekend, apparently, on the pod. All right, what do you got to say about Lando?
Again, obviously he did really well. It's a little bit of momentum, but I also think it's hometown. I always have to root for the hometown boys. It's just the vibes. I don't have much else to say other than that.
All right. Well, I have got Max Verstappen, P2. Like I said, I've really struggled with this top three. There's a lot of different people. I could see Oscar in the top three. I could see Lewis Hamilton in the top three. I could see George being higher than third. I could definitely see Max being higher than P2. Like I said, if it actually rains during the GP, Max is going to be absolutely dangerous. It's going to be hard to fight him off. But, if it doesn't rain, then I don't know that he's going to have the pace to beat my P1 prediction. So Max, I'm going to go with P2. Yeah, I don't know. I don't have like a lot of reasons here because honestly, part of me really wants to put him P1. I'm maybe going a little bit vibe pick on this one and just putting him in P2 on the weekend, which wouldn't be a terrible result.
Well, my vibes say Max is going to win.
All right. Well, we'll see. We'll see whose vibes are stronger, I guess.
Yeah, well, we shall see.
All right. And moving into my top pick, closing out my top three, top of the podium. Probably obvious who it's going to be at this point based on the trends and previous picks, but that is Lando Norris. I kind of already spoke to why I think Lando will be on the top step in my poll prediction, which is just, hometown hero, good track record here. McLaren has been good here. Lando's a pretty good wet weather driver, having a lot of confidence in that car on the back of his Canada GP victory, which I think will have him in a better headspace and allow him to maybe battle people like Max without making a mistake, which has kind of been his Achilles heel, is making dumb errors in his battles against Oscar and Max specifically. So I am riding, I guess this is a momentum pick actually. I am riding the momentum pick of Lando Norris at his home GP. And I can probably guess where you're going, but who do you have on the top step? P1.
I already told you.
No, well, yeah, you did, but technically you didn't
Max.
go. Yeah, you did say Max. All right, well, that closes out our top three then. And moving into our crazy predictions. You kick it off. What's your crazy prediction?
So yeah, this ties into Lance Stroll.
Okay.
I'm just going based off of kind of the theme of the past few weeks of having same team placing within a certain threshold of each other. So Aston Martin placing top 10 both cars.
Both cars in the top 10 for Aston Martin. I like it. Fernando Alonso definitely has the skill set to do it and has been doing well. And Lance Stroll could maybe pull one out in the rain. So I like the double top 10 Aston Martin. I don't know if that's happened. I don't think that's happened yet this season. I think only
Anything
one or the
happened this
other.
weekend?
Yeah, I think only one or the other has made it in. I don't think they've gotten a double top 10. So it's a very solid, crazy prediction. I like it. I feel like there's some data in there more than just vibes. I don't really know, but I like it if that was solely vibes.
How much data do I know?
I don't know.
I was going based off of the chart. Who I haven't talked about.
All right, fair enough. My crazy prediction is I think there's going to be 2 safety cars during the GP. So
2 safety cars.
Yeah, I think there's...
Why?
I mean, good chance of it raining, not raining, or raining hard. And I think just having mixed conditions is going to make it harder for the drivers to, decide on tires, manage tires, like all of that. And I think that's going to cause them to maybe extend in certain situations when they shouldn't extend because they think that rain is coming, or they think that rain is here, but it's going to stay short, and so they're going to stay on dries. I think it's just going to really complicate the strategy, and it's going to end up with some people making poor strategy and tire selection decisions, and some people are going to end up in the wall. So I think the safety car, I think there's going to be 2 safety cars, whether that's full safety car or virtual safety car. I think there's going to be 2 safety cars during the GP, and we're going to get some interesting results.
All right.
And that closes out our predictions episode for the British GP. We will be back later this week with the driver ratings and race review. So stay tuned, and we'll see you all later.
Bye.